Homage to the Triple Gem. So good morning, everybody, from beautiful Ratanapura. This is Bhante Joe. And I guess one of the themes that has been coming up from time to time recently is this theme of refuge in the Buddha. And when a person grows up in the West, especially like many people do who come to Buddhism, there's often a kind of a reaction against Christianity that, I know especially for myself when I was growing up, the adults who I was surrounded with, who I was around, and I'm very grateful for it actually, they were in a sense almost anti-religious. There was like an anti-religious side to the evolution of Western culture. Especially in the 60s, the kind of intelligentsia were influenced by a kind of enlightenment movement, which was moving away from what people saw as the lies of Christianity towards the truths that science offered, that reason offered, and that a hope for a genuine quest for reality offered, a genuine quest for what wasn't false. So there was this kind of contrast between using reason to find what was true and relying on faith, relying on the qualities of the heart to be misled by whoever decided to tell you what to believe in, what to have faith in, and what qualities of the heart to cultivate, or to be led by the qualities of your heart. So growing up with this, it wasn't totally pervasive like every adult was saying that, but that was definitely in the air, especially in the air for people who believed in science and were not Christians. So actually, I was never a Christian, although Canada was a Christian country for much, especially growing up. I remember going to my friends' houses and they go to Sunday school. So you kind of adopt these. You adopt these kind of values. You adopt the environment of the culture that you were raised in, and in a sense, this kind of culture is what drove many people towards Buddhism, kind of questioning the reasonableness of having faith in everything. So whatever your preacher tells you or whatever a God tells you to do, just doing that, versus what seemed like the obvious gains of technology and science. And Buddhism is appealing, or it appealed to me, it appeals to many people, at least because it's a rational religion in a sense. It's kind of, you can clearly see the reasons why the Buddha has laid things out, and he lays the reasons out. And he also says, basically just don't take his word, test it out. It's to be known individually by the wise. It's something that you can test out. You can see it for yourself. Everything that the Buddha has realized, in theory, it's possible for another human being to realize it if they cultivate the qualities that he did to the same degree. So this is something very appealing, and experientially, a person can test this out within their immediate domain. It's kind of, it's like somebody has a map of an area. And a map maker gives you a map of an area and says, okay, this is the area, and here's a map, and this leads to a really good place. And you get the map, and you think, well, rationally, this looks like it makes sense. The map looks like it makes sense, but I don't really trust you. I don't really know 100% who you are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow every little side street and see if what you say is there before I, just set out and go, packing my bags and heading on some long journey. I'm going to test out the map of what you say is there in my neighborhood, what's immediately around me. So when a person comes to Buddhism, if they come at it from this rational angle, what they call the Panya faculty, they can come at it in this way, kind of testing out what's immediately available to be tested in their immediate experience to see if it matches up with what the Buddha says. Is what he's saying true, or is what he's saying false? Is the map that he presents accurate or not? And the map that the Buddha presents stretches a person's capabilities. So in order to progress in the Buddha's teachings, one has to stretch one's capabilities. One has to stretch what one thought one could do before. So I remember when I first came to Buddhism as a really young man, I was, at that time I was really studying hard, wanted to go to university. I had all these obstacles in my way. in any event, I noticed that when meditating, then I could focus much better. I could study for longer. There's kind of a little side street that one can test. And I still remember going on my first meditation retreat for 5 days, and it was the most excruciating pain I'd ever felt in my life. I made this kind of determination to sit with my off meditation leg. You have kind of this good meditation leg, you got a bad meditation leg, and I made a determination to sit through the whole retreat with my bad meditation leg. And it was probably the most excruciating pain I've ever been in my life. But one of the things was that after this retreat, I noticed that there was this long-lasting effect of, for lack of a better word, just one could say like a kind of more focus, more calm, general disposition. And this 5-day retreat, that effect seemed to last like quite some time. Over time, I kind of came up with this theory or this general idea that a good 5-day retreat, the effect would last about 6 months. So it's something that's, immediately testable. But the thing with Buddhism in general is that there are elements in which this rationality can't go to. We can develop a kind of sense of conviction, like, okay, this is true, the map is accurate. I've gone down so many different, I've gone down as many side streets as it seems reasonable. And if I keep going down side streets, I'm never going to get to where the map tells me to go. Now, this is a type of faith that leans more in the direction of conviction. Like, what the Buddha said is true. I've tested out what, one can think this way. I've tested out what is in my immediate range. I've extended my range and tested what the Buddha said in that range. And however much I try, I cannot prove him wrong. And rationally, it makes sense. So this is something that's worth believing, something that's worth following. There is this aspect to these things. However, there's another aspect of faith which is more based on the heart. And faith in Buddhism is called Shraddha. It's one of the first of the 5 faculties that one needs to move forward. And this faith is more on the side of the mysterious aspects of Kamma and what we might call like the following in the slipstream of a teacher or a leader or whatever it might be. So there's this saying that they use in Thailand. It's kind of like the parami. They call it like the parami of the teacher. And of course, not everybody who's like a hardcore sutta fundamentalist would like that. But they even have modern scientific theories that seem to dovetail with this. They've got one called morphic resonance, which is a little bit of a fringe theory, but seems to have experimental evidence to back it, in which animals of a similar group, if one animal or a group of animals with similar characteristics, like if a similar group learns that, then an animal group of the same type that's separated, has no direct means of communication, is also able to do that more quickly. So it's one of the explanations they give for why, like, nobody could break. People thought it was like physically impossible for a human to run the 100 meters in less than 10 seconds. And then once one person does it, everybody can do it. And this is an effect they found not just with like animal species. They've done these experiments with lab rats. They've done experiments with raising the temperatures that bacteria can survive at, and then having bacteria, I guess, in a completely geographically separated region, showing the same resistance to this training and increased temperatures. I mean, obviously this is not something that goes across the board or is going to translate on a one-to-one basis, but more like a pull or an effect. And they've even seen it in the formation of certain crystals that, just never formed, and then one forms and they form all over the world in disparate parts. So not going to argue for that theory per se, like this is the way that it is and everybody should accept this theory. But there are these kind of scientific theories that have an element of like following in the stream of the parami, of the accumulated tendencies of cause and effect of like a teacher or a group or whatever it might be. So there's this aspect that's rational to faith. And there's also this aspect where one puts one's trust in a person, puts one's trust in their goodness, or puts one's trust in like the feeling that one has that this is the right thing to do. So the rational faculty is a really excellent faculty because it can plan out things in the future. It can take causes that are there now and decide what a desired effect one wants to have in the future, and then try to set in motion the causes now to get that desired effect. And one of the tricky things with this, just using the rational faculty as a measure of faith, is that it can sometimes not see solutions to obstacles that occur right now, that there's no rational way that one can see a way forward around them, given the tools at one's current disposal. So there is this aspect of faith, and like we may say, growing up, like classical, like Christianity was the classic one in Canada, the Western world at the time, of like stepping with confidence or stepping with faith into a future that's completely uncertain. Just having the belief that a positive outcome is possible, that there's something that one can do, and one doesn't know how one's going to do it, but one's going to take one step at a time to make sure that it gets done. So this same faith applies to Buddhism, applies to Buddha. There's this heart quality that one can have, that one needs to have in the Buddha, that the Buddha was somebody who knew the way, and that there's going to be obstacles that one encounters in one's practice, on one's path, that one rationally cannot see a way around. There's no way. And the only way to go through them is to put one foot in front of the other, to go forward. It's kind of this heart quality of faith, that this is something good, that there's goodness here, and this is something that can be done. And I don't know how it's going to be done, but I'm going to do it. So both these faculties, both these aspects of faith, it's important to have them both come together in order to tackle some of the larger problems that one faces in one's practice. Because there are these problems in one's practice that one can solve by thinking about them forward. I'm going to do this and this. But there's also problems that one solves in one's practice by going through them, learning the solutions in the moment, and then looking backwards to see what it was one actually did, to recognize the patterns of what one did that made one successful. So to become good at these things, faith is really, really important. It's really, really important to have the conviction the map maker is right, the map is good, and so long as I follow it, I'm going to a good place, and these are the ways that I can follow the map. It's also important to have this aspect of faith that's in heart quality. The Buddha is leading us on a good path. There's ways that I can move forward. I don't know what they are, but I'm going to find them. When both of these things come together, it can make one resilient. Resilient in the face of obstacles, resilient in the face of danger, resilient in the face of fear, and give one strength that one needs to move forward on the Buddhist path to the end of suffering.